everyone. Hi. My name is Dawn Bear, and I'm with Voters East of the Industrial Canal. I want to thank you all for joining us so late at night. I want to apologize for that. So we're going to get started. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to state your full name, your position, how long you've been in that position, and what seat you are seeking, including your ballot number. So we'll start, I'm going to start on this side of the screen. We'll start with Big John.
My full name is John James Mason. I've been an attorney since 2009. I'm running for Louisiana Public Service Commission District 1 seat, and I'm ballot number 64.
Thank you. Mr. Allen? You're on mute. You're on mute. There you go. Okay.
Hi, I'm Alan Bourne. I'm running for Public Service Commission District 1, and I'm a practicing attorney and have been for the last 35 years.
Thank you. Kevin Pearson.
Hi, yes, since we're doing the full name, my first name is Joseph Kevin Pearson.
Okay.
I'm an investment advisor. I've done that 38 years. I recently was term limited out. I was a state representative for the Eastern Slidell District 76 for 12 years, term limited, and now, as everyone else, seeking the office of Public Service Commissioner of District number 1, and ballot number 65.
Thank you. William Bortfield.
Hi, my name is William Bortfield. I am currently a college student at University of New Orleans, and I am also running for the Public Service Commission District 1 seat.
Thank you. Mr. Skrmetta, could you unmute your... Okay, so what I'd like you to do is to state your full name, your profession, how long you've been in that profession, what seat you are seeking, and your ballot number.
Oh, ballot number. See if I can locate my ballot number for you.
That's okay. That's okay. Let's go on.
My name is Eric Skrmetta. My profession is, private profession is attorney at law. Been an attorney for 35 years. My public service profession, I've been serving as Public Service Commissioner for District 1 for approximately approaching 12 years.
Okay, thank you very much. So what I'm going to do is ask you some questions relating to the Public Service Commission. So if elected to the position, how would you advance equity in a state where electric bills contribute to housing insecurity? Basically, the high cost of people living in the state right now, and we have very high energy bills or electric bills. So would you maybe give someone a work on a process to work with them on paying their bills or getting them lower bills if they have a small income coming into their residence? Big John.
Absolutely. My research indicates that for most people, utility bill is their second largest monthly expense. So a small increase in the rate makes a big difference to your pocketbook. And one of the issues I'm running on is it has been 20 years since we considered deregulating these regulated monopolies. Right now, you have no choice who to buy energy from. You buy it from Entergy or Clico, or, some people want to generate, some businesses want to generate their own. I'm a firm believer in competition gives you more choices. You might want to pay less to use normal lines. You might want to pay more to use storm hardened lines so your family doesn't lose power during a hurricane. 20 years ago, when they considered it in 1999, none of the commissioners then are the commissioners now. Yet no one has brought it up in the 20 years until this year. I understand they've been studying it for 9 to 12 months, but there's still no action. So this election is going to be critical. This might be our last chance at competition, which, as I said, I believe it maximizes consumer choice and it minimizes consumer costs. Some people may say that's not so. I'm a capitalist. I think more competition will lower prices.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Skrmetta.
Same question?
Yes, same question.
Okay. Well, you know, the Louisiana Public Service Commission does not regulate the city of New Orleans electrical service. That's
True.
regulated by the city council. But
Yes.
in general principle, the state of Louisiana does have the lowest residential utility rates in the country, and it makes a big difference. But when we look at deregulating, we are studying the potential of deregulation. Unfortunately, we've got good examples with the state of Texas. Half of Texas is deregulated and half of it is consumer choice, and is regulated, and the other half is consumer choice. In the regulated portion of Texas, their regulated utility rates are slightly higher than Louisiana. In their unregulated and consumer choice, it's actually over double what Louisiana is. And what we find is they also have a different approach to integrated resource planning and a variety of other issues they do. In fact, one part of it, it's a technical issue where they pool their electricity as direct current versus alternating current, and it changes the whole way they plan things. So I do think that Louisiana is in a good position to look at how we have effectively brought the consumption of electricity into an issue of really keeping prices low. The issue is always going to be on what consumers choose to consume. And we do encourage people to, you know, improve their energy efficiency. The commission has a program that we work with through the utilities in one half, where the utilities work money directly for improving residential energy efficiency programs. And we also have another half of that where we work directly with government programs in which we provide government with high efficiency. We work through contractors to provide high efficiency lighting, high efficiency air conditioning systems to reduce government utility bills, and that balances out the interest on tax issues. But you know, the real situation is if we can keep prices low and give consumers choice, then it's really about how can we improve the lives of people in really adjusting their consumption profiles and get them to consume less electricity, because Louisiana does provide the best value for electricity, but it's really about working with folks and getting them to consume less.
Thank you so much. Mr. Boardfield?
Well, I do also believe in deregulation leading to lower prices in the free market. I am a firm believer that in an ethical free market, more choices will lead to a lower price point and more choice for the consumer. It's just basic economics. It doesn't take a college graduate yet to figure that out. But I think we need to make sure that we do so responsibly, and deregulation will also invite clean energy producers to come into the state, which will also create a more competitive pricing market for our electrical suppliers in the state. When you look at California's crisis in 2001, I think that could have been averted with a little bit of pre-planning by their service commission as far as what they could have done with the competitive market. They kind of let it go a little too wild. I think you need to rein it in a little bit, but deregulation is the right step. We need to allow more competition into this market to lower the prices for the consumers.
Thank you. Mr. Pearson?
Thank you. One thing I think, I can't dispute or disagree. We do have among the lower rates in the country, but also we have among the highest bills or the highest consumption in the country, which does mean it's a simple thing. I think it means that we need to consider, and work for more programs for efficiency. I mean, with energy efficiency, someone can probably save 15 to 25% on their bill. I mean, I've seen that done. That's probably one of the simplest things. And you can do it at different levels. I mean, certainly you can go all out and it'll cost a lot of money, but there are some certain things, and perhaps some programs are just a sense of awareness of that, to let people know what they can do. One other area, I mean, I certainly will look to deregulation. I think it's something that we have to be careful of. I mean, I want to do what's right for the consumer. And I'm not quite certain. And there's a lot to study. There's a lot to study relative to that. But I think the efficiency is one of the things. I think we can also, New Orleans has a program where a lot of people are switching over to solars, and they have companies that are in New Orleans with the, because New Orleans does have what is called, true net metering, whereas the rest of the state doesn't. So it kind of depends on your zip code, whether or not you can benefit from it. Some areas of the state you certainly can't. But one of the other things I think we can look at, I mean, CLECO, for example, has about a 10% guaranteed rate of return on their capital, on their investments. I think energy is probably in the 9, maybe 9.5 range or something like that. Those are the rates that are set. I mean, the guaranteed returns that are set by the Public Service Commission. And I think some of those could be looked at as well. So.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, Mr. Swagman. How are you tonight? You're on. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. No. No, I'm going to come back to you, but we can't hear you. So, so what I want to do right now is ask you a yes or no.
Wait, did you want me to answer that question also? Alan Bourne here?
Sorry. Yeah, you moved up. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry, Mr. Bourne. Yes, please.
Right now, we find ourselves in the midst of a pandemic, which has had a severe economic impact on many of the hardworking families of Louisiana. Mm-hmm. They struggle. Those that have been impacted by unemployment are struggling right now to pay their electric bills. Low-income people spend as much as 20% of their income on their utilities. While Louisiana has some of the lowest utility rates in the country, we have some of the highest bills, as was previously said. We need to work on energy efficiency, where people are trained by the electric company and receive education on how to use less by weatherproofing their house and just using energy more wisely. I think that we should give a hand assistance to those people that are struggling right now. Energy itself has just reported record profits, and at the same time that so many people in Louisiana, the families are struggling. So we could do things like waive the late fees and help people with their bills by making payments and keeping the lights on for people.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Swagman, you're with us? Okay, we're going to come back. So this is going to be a yes or no answer. So I'm going to start with Mr. Skrmetta. Would you support a renewable portfolio standard in Louisiana to switch supply from oil, coal, and gas to solar and wind energy? Mr. Skrmetta.
A mandated standard, no, but we already do have a renewable portfolio standard in the state of Louisiana.
Okay. Mr. Boardfield?
I would support a state mandate in conjunction with deregulation to begin making that transition over a 25 to 30-year period.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pearson?
It is hard to do with a yes or no answer, but I pretty much agree that over a time frame, it is something we can look. And I think there is, again, there are companies that have been doing this.
Okay. Mr. Bourne?
An emphatic yes, and we start by starting.
Okay. Mr. Mason?
It depends on the cost. If we can have green energy that's almost price efficient, absolutely. But if it's going to drive up the price of rates and disproportionately affect the poor, then I think we need to wait until it doesn't place a burden on the ratepayer.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to start with Mr. Pearson.
And now Mr. Swagman's on mute. He might be able to push.
Still on mute. Mr. Swagman, you're still on mute. Can you hear me? Mr. Swagman? Can you? Okay, we're gonna move on. Okay, Mr. Pearson. The PSC has jurisdiction over utilities that could possibly be environmentally unsafe for communities. In your position, would you be more inclined to protect the communities, or are you going to work with the industries that are being built? And we know in Louisiana, we have many unsafe businesses that are definitely polluting the area. So as you're in your position, if you're elected, how would you deal with communities in protecting them from these environmentally unsafe companies coming in?
I mean, I would have to certainly meet in each of the communities, and the community comes first. It must come first. I mean, the people, we're there. I'm not there to represent the energy companies. I'm there to represent the people. Mm-hmm. And no one should be subject to something that, that could cause cancer or could hurt them in a way. So it is certainly something we need to look at. I mean, something we need to deal with. If it's something we need to deal with, certainly. I mean, there is a natural shift from coal. We still have some plants, I believe that, probably most of them still burn a little bit of coal. Mm-hmm. They've moved to natural gas. That certainly does help somewhat. And a lot of companies are certainly looking towards, even the utility companies. Energy built a very large field out in Washington Parish of solar. And I think that is something that's going to be coming in the future even more. I think that's, as the price comes down, I believe it'll happen more and more.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Boardfield.
Dawn,
I'm sorry, yes? So
Mr. Schwegman, I think his mic, I have had him on the phone. His microphone is not working on his computer. Okay. So I would, he would like to say something. So I'm going to put him on the microphone, on the microphone here for him to say something. Okay.
All right, we'll do.
Okay, Mr. Schwegman, let's give.
Is my voice coming across now?
Yes, I can hear you. So, Mr. Swagman, I'd like you to state your full name, your position, and how long your profession, and how long you've been in that profession, and what seat you are seeking, and your ballot number.
All right. My name is John F. Schwegman, and I am seeking the position of a seat on the Louisiana Public Service Commission from District 1. And I might add that although it was several decades ago, I served for a few months short of 16 years on the Public Service Commission. And I'm extremely proud that I was the only member that served on the Public Service Commission who refused to accept any funds from any of the utility companies or their executives that I regulated. And I might also add that the most important element of public service is integrity. Everything else pales to that. For everyone's information, a former CEO of Energy once said, and was quoted in the Times-Picayune, that he controlled 3 votes on the Louisiana Public Service Commission. Whatever knowledge you might have, whatever anything else about the commission, doesn't matter if you are controlled by the utility companies.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Swagman. So I'm going to come back to you with the question that's currently on the floor. So Mr. Boardfield, since the PSC has jurisdiction over utilities that could possibly be environmentally unsafe for communities, what would your position be on protecting these endangered communities?
Well, first things first, the health of our citizens have to come before any profits. I believe that especially disproportionately low-income communities are affected by a lot of these health hazard plants, as I call them. And you see it with higher cancer rates, you see it with higher death rates, earlier, shorter lifespans. My position would be that I would take any steps necessary to protect lives and to protect especially those of low income, because until recently, it's almost as if nobody's talked about it in these types of races. It's almost been a non-issue.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Skrmetta?
It's always a consideration for the public when any new type of generation facility is built. There's 6 coal plant generation systems in Louisiana, but it only forms less than 10% of the generation fleet. Most of the generation fleet in Louisiana is natural gas driven. It's about 77%. There is a movement towards large industrial scale solar generation. There are currently 13 large industrial scale solar facilities under construction in Louisiana that should be complete within the year. There's an additional 7 that should be done within about a year and a half. Those have no environmental impact in what you would call in atmospheric impact, but we looked at environmental impact on the its effect on nature as well, and deforestation. But you know, the considerations are not just on the Public Service Commission level. We also have everything that is built is air permitted by the Department of Environmental Protection. There are permittings from the Department of Environmental Quality at the state level. There is a range of regulatory hurdles that any new generation device goes through. But for the most part, in Louisiana, our future lies in a sort of hybrid mix of predominantly natural gas, which is largely I would call deleterious, but in a combination hybrid element with expanding industrial scale solar. So I think that while that is taking into consideration every element for the public.
Thank you. Mr. Swagman, did you hear the question?
I will say this to you, that if the commission is dictated to and owned by the utility companies, then whatever the utility companies want is what will happen. So the most important thing that needs to happen so that there can be sensibility and a productive process through all of this is to have independent elected commissioners that will think for themselves and not follow the dictates of the utility companies. Then we might have a chance of sensible things being done. But the way it exists right now, whatever the utility companies want, that's what will happen.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Bourne.
Yes, of course, the surrounding neighbors are most impacted by the plants. And there are 2. They're the existing plants and the plants that we plan for the future. The surrounding neighbors, of course, are more impacted because the pollution from those plants is more impacted close to them. The further away you get, the more it's dispersed. So I would protect the neighbors by doing monitoring, constant monitoring of the pollution situation. If it arises to high levels, giving warnings, giving advisories, and keeping everybody informed about what's going on at the plants. And if there's any hazardous events, that people are informed early on so that they take warning. For the new plants, I think we should go out of our way to make those have as little impact on the neighbors and the environment as possible. And while coal is offers the most pollution, natural gas also is an element of pollution. And of course, solar, there's no pollution. So we should be steering cost effectively towards solar. So yes, the people surrounding the plants are the #1 priority.
Thank you. Mr. Mason.
Well, I think just about everyone here is old enough to remember Waterford 3. And of course, no one's going to argue the community absolutely has to be protected. And as Mr. Skrmetta mentioned, they do environmental studies, but the bottom line is the PSC can only regulate up to the limit of their authority. If it turns out we need more protection, not a single lawyer mentioned you can go to the Louisiana legislature and ask for expanded authority. And to do that, you have to be able to work with the Louisiana House and Senate. I testified on 4 bills in front of the House and Senate this year, and I'm not claiming credit, but all 4 of them passed and were signed by the governor. I'm working as best I can to help Senator Beth Mizell expand rural internet, but I don't want to get too far afield. I have a good history of working with the legislature. If we need more protection, I'll try and do my damnedest to help us get it.
Okay, great. And in fact, this is going to be a yes or no answer too. In dealing with DEQ, do you all find that they are also protecting communities when they approve permits? Mr. Mason?
Sometimes.
Okay, I believe you. Mr. Bourne?
Yes, most times, yes. They have the
Most
interest
times.
of the community at heart.
Okay, Mr. Swagman?
Questionable.
Okay, Mr. Skrmetta?
I think the majority of the time, yes. Also, I would like to add one element. I did find my ballot number at 68.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Warfield?
I would say I would like to think that they act in good faith, but it definitely needs to be watched and monitored.
Okay, Mr. Pearson?
Typically and currently, I think yes.
Okay. Now, I just have one last question because I see we're about to run out of time. And again, we're going to make it quick, so it's going to be a yes or no answer. So we've been talking about rates in Louisiana. It appears that actually Entergy New Orleans really charged Orleans Parish more than any place else in the state, but we know why. But would you require Entergy and other investor-owned utilities in Louisiana to publicly disclose the amount of money they receive from the Federal CARES Act pandemic? Yes or no? Mr. Mason?
Absolutely. Full transparency always.
Okay, Mr. Bourne?
Yes, full transparency,
Mr.
absolutely.
Pierce? Thank you.
Yeah, easy. Yes.
Mr. Boardfield?
Absolutely, full transparency.
Mr. Skrmetta?
Absolutely. And I will tell you that Entergy New Orleans is about 15 to 20% higher than the state of Louisiana, largely driven by the cost of the attorneys in the city that are out of Washington and out of the state of Colorado. And the city of New Orleans has the largest or the highest cost per kilowatt hour regulatory in the world. So what they spend $10 million on in the city of New Orleans, the Public Service Commission only spends about $2 million for the entire state. And that's what drives a major differential.
And we do hope that changes sometime in the future. Mr. Swagman?
Complete disclosure, and if you take a look at Energy's most recent financial statement, you will see that NOPSI earns a lower percent of return than Energy in the rest of the state of Louisiana.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. So it's like I say, our time is up. I want to thank you. It's late at night. I truly appreciate it. And you have, I really admire you guys for running for position during COVID-19. It must be really rough, but I'm glad that we got to speak to you. Our listeners will get to see who you are and hear what you had to say. So thank you very much. Have a great weekend and good night.
Thank you, Dawn. I didn't give my ballot number. It's 63 for Alan Bourne.
Okay, thank you.
Good night.
Have a great
All
night.
right. Good night.